Hello and welcome to Malcolm Show, episode 30. Happy we've made it this far, let's keep going. So, today's study topic is a development of the metaphysical concept of marketing in relation with various theories of everything, such as mathematical universe, a very broad comprehension of general relativity, a vague understanding of quantum mechanics, and a mild understanding of string theory. So whilst the physics of these ideas are things I do find very interesting, I am focusing more on the metaphysical side of possibilities first, just to get a grounded idea in what I'm focusing on, which is done with the intention of clarifying what interests me most. So if we think about the term narrative as a concept, as a paradigm essential to the continuation of reality, I see narrative as a tool through which humanity necessarily communicates with the universe. So, from my perspective, it is absolutely necessary that there is narrative in the universe, because without narrative, there's no communication equatable with observation. And if there's no communication equatable with observation, then the universe struggles to exist. That went well. I was expecting that to take slightly longer, but apparently you're paying attention. Okay, so the heart of the concept is narrative is essential in the terms of perception, because without narrative we cannot communicate our perception, which effectively I would describe as a perceptual necessity that doesn't necessarily define the exclusivity of existence beyond it. In simpler terms, the universe doesn't necessarily stop existing when we stop observing it. However, the narrative may still continue. Simple instance being, historical events happened before I was born. Presently, future, eventually history events will happen after I die. So, whilst my present understanding of narrative is generally based in the present day and things that came from history beforehand, as well as speculation of the future, the principle of narrative is consistent with or without my perception of it. In the same sense that formal sciences, and I'd say some of the natural sciences as well, arguably theoretically exist without us perceiving it. I mean, the evidence is, as far as I'm aware, 99.97% to the effect of that's probably how it all works. So, the consequence, how would I want a queen there? Niels? Right, okay. So the idea is that if existence continues regardless of whether or not we're here, then perception continues whether or not we're here. But does it? Existence continues, but does perception continue? So, because that's a question I cannot technically falsify I can't falsify right now. It stands open-ended. Pardon me. And because it stands open-ended, the questions that I can falsify might be more pertinent to figuring out questions that help answer that question of existential continuation. The principle being that if we look at it as if we look at marketing as a universal constant in, conjunction with narrative, then the paradigm of perception essentially necessitates duality. Okay, so that's somewhere we can start writing notes. Perception necessitates duality. Okay, so if perception necessitates duality, then what's coming to mind is a mathematical singularity, which I'm not as familiar with as a technological singularity. The basic premise of either is that they start becoming very indiscernible from everything around them. Okay, so the mathematical singularity is a possibility around a black hole, and the technological singularity is a possibility in the context of human life not being able to continue, being unlikely to continue independent of technology, because I would argue, given the precedent of technological integration, that if we do reach technological singularity, it would eventually become, necessary is a strong word, but it'd be one of those things like having a smartphone is kind of the thing. It'd become one of those socioeconomic events there that essentially, if you're not part of the singularity, you're excluded from progressing. And yes, I'm very aware that there are several wealthy people that operate without smartphones, and I'm sure there's plenty not so wealthy people that operate well without smartphones as well. The point I'm making is that the vast majority of people, and if we work on the numbers, that's the smarter idea to base this on, most people need a smartphone to do many things in society. So if we accept that, and accept that technological singularity works on a similar premise, then technological singularity, essentially is an event that, with the constants of marketing and narrative, is theoretically predictable via zeitgeist. Okay, so if it's technically predictable via zeitgeist, in the same way that my eyes observing this chess set are integrating various patterns, then my continuous behavior of this chess set, my continuous behavior with this chess set eventually equates in a result, and that result may be known as checkmate. So, if we continue accepting the premise that cosmological events, as well as their ontological consequences constitutes the bulk of metaphysics. You could even argue cosmology and ontology exist out width of perception, but epistemology doesn't. Ooh, that's a fun question. Pardon me. First, you'd have to define knowledge, intelligence. And perception, really. Okay, so if marketing and narrative can be considered not necessarily teleological constructs, but definitely arguable as ontological constructs, then cosmologically speaking, marketing and narrative continue throughout history. And to continue throughout history, then in the dimension of time, they can continue. And if they continue in the dimension of time, how does something continue temporally and not continue spatially? So, perception necessitates space, and does it? Perception necessitates space, but does it necessitate time? Because if you were technically immortal and you never knew about time and you were always a thing, you never had the idea of today. Well, I suppose time still exists if there's not today or tomorrow. It's just the now all the time. So if it's always now, then it's all, so that virtue is effectively always here, and if it's always here and always now, which are premises I'm quite comfortable accepting as consistent, then oh bollocks! Oh well, at least we got that. If it's always here and it's always now, then everything ever done always happens in the here and now, then marketing and narrative exist in the here and now. Starting to get very abstract. There was a word that was sort of opposite of abstract, which I found really brilliantly definitional. If anybody knows it, please tell me. It reminded me of articulate or something to that nature. Okay, let's zoom in. So marketing and narrative are effectively constant constructs defining a comprehension of perception, and because they define a comprehension of perception, marketing definitely spatially, narrative definitely temporally. Oh, bells that bit, I don't know. Okay, if marketing and narrative are universal constructs, multiversal, omniversal, then defining marketing as a less fundamental concept, because narrative has a looser interpretation because it doesn't have a specific objective other than describing ontology. So marketing's cosmological, really. And narrative's ontological, vaguely speaking, anyway. Okay, so alright, so if the cosmological consequences of marketing are akin with an ecological form of economy, okay, let's word map, semantic network. Okay, so cosmology, pardon me, ecology, economy, market, society, and then close that there, open that, ontology, what would be the narrative? Grammars, wouldn't it? Yeah. So, grammar, and then metaphysics, linguistics, mathematics. Okay, so if we accept that metaphysically reality has a linguistic and a mathematic basis from a perspective of qualitative to quantitative, in the realm of perception, because perception must necessarily be dualistic, because something has to perceive the thing being perceived. Let's just refresh this page and see what happens. Come on. That's much better. Right. So 85.2. 0, 2, 0, 2, 7, 7, 9, 19, 0, 0. Doodle-doo-doo. Okay, so perception is necessarily dualistic, and metaphysically my species interprets data on a qualitative to quantitative range. It's going well, thank you. How are you? Then effectively the linguistic and mathematical duality necessarily has a consistency called syntax. So if there's a consistency called syntax, then syntax is perceptual necessity. Perception. Syntax requires there to be. Chess is my favorite. Yes. Syntax doesn't necessarily require to be an observer. In the same sense that narrative doesn't necessarily need a reader. Narrative simply needs to be interpretable as somewhat formally structured, having a pattern that repeats either frequently enough to be salient, or with analysis is identifiable as repeating in some manner. So if we contrast something like narrative with irrational numbers, for instance, then arguably that can mean irrational numbers have a narrative. Simply by the fact that they have a clearly defined ending point. That's getting really far into abstract mathematical. Although if abstract mathematical is the truth, as well as potentially if simulation theory is the truth, because digital reality might necessarily corporate numbers such as pi and other irrational numbers. So then there's two ontological contexts from which irrational numbers exist. Technically, the one we're in right now. So that gives a basis to the premise that narrative, whilst theoretically consistent throughout metaphysics, is in ubiquitous. You could even argue that the fact that an irrational number doesn't render anything to that, that gives it its own unique style of narrative. Although higgledy is an unusual way to describe narrative. Narrative is typically interpreted as being coherent at the very least. So best. Okay. So let's hear. Something you have been doing recently is developing my simplex system as part of my ratio-based conditioning system. Fancy way of saying learn how to count things properly, do it grouping, such as ratios, with synthesis being various forms of triangles. You can essentially start grouping patterns into useful shapes, such as if I have three here, and drag, and then click, then drag, and then click. The three different ways I'm aware of moving from S3 to G5, then re-encodes that data in three different ways. Which then forms a neurological narrative when I'm correcting behavior. That is. I started doing this without the fingerpressing here. However, because that behavior is consistent, it can then be construed as an adaptation to the plasticity in my brain. As the neuroplasticity adapts, and I know this is somewhat divergent from what I was going a moment ago. There's always connections to metaphysics. You can argue that everything I'm debating in my brain is simultaneously an expression of, and that's not meant to be anything more than a description of how if we are the universe, stardust, or God, the world, then every behavior I deliver from my sensory, my sensorium, perceptions, and converting the raw, auditory, gustatory, olfactory, somatosensory, visual data, five main senses, as well as equilibrium, six main senses, into a sense of cognition, which I don't know if there's a formally definition of cognition, cerebration, or thought, as sense. However, the idea that something we are aware of to a sense is the result of, from a physicalist perspective, chemicals floating around the brain, going through your tissue, in your neural oscillation, and as the electrochemistry is acted upon, you start hearing yourself thinking what is essentially a form of arbitrary neuroeconomics. It's more precisely on the metaphysical universe speaking with self in a collective sense. So if we consider that marketing is something necessarily done in a market to a consumer, then there must be at least two participants, unless the marketers themselves, which would be akin with the idea, psychologically speaking, of rationalization, marketing ideas to yourself. If you market an idea to yourself, then you run a successful marketing campaign. If you're able to run that marketing campaign to other people, that's then. So if you're running a marketing campaign to yourself, that's akin to the idea of marketing paradigmatically existing unconditionally. It exists outwith the universe's confinement of exists outside the confinement of existence. So because marketing to yourself if you are embodying the universe and identifying with it, then the universe effectively markets to itself. If does necessarily depend on the marketee being marketed towards having the volition to perceive what they're perceiving. So there's a huge debate generally. I would say specifically whether or not sent any of the adverts online because the walls of litigation surrounding them, the difficulty actually comprehend them if you're not quite well versed in language generally, to be honest, it's not having law degrees, it's having suitable vocabulary to keep up with everything. Vocabulary is one thing, another to know how the words flow together, it's another to piece together strings that the sentences make more useful. So marketing, whilst technically consistent through cosmology and arguably teleological. Marketing is an epistemological idea. So okay. So epistemology and teleology. I've heard it as teleology. Ratio with marketing plus narrative narrative we find fascinating. And of course, there's always some sort of projective behavior going on, describing how we feel at the more intimate level, shall we say, whether somebody feels hungry or thirsty, or horny or tired. All these various physiological events are represented in psychological speech. So if that idea is consistent throughout human beings, is it consistent? Okay. So if it's consistent in human beings, then arguably communication of biological animals. Because I feel that in simpler life forms, such as the great elephants and dolphins and various described intelligent animals, there still is that focus of food and sex. So the idea of consistently feeding self and providing for the species is a consistent thing throughout all species. And you say, but food is delicious experience, and so is sex, but ultimately you have those feeling higher quality, you enjoy life, and yes, some just taste better as a survival. You're given the choice between taste your food, everything. So it's a bit null and void. You're talking about meaning of life, which to me is a question. If you have to ask what meaning of life is, then you need to get to know yourself better. I feel it's one of those things you can only define for yourself. Because beyond the biological definition of what the meaning of life is, which is shag, sleep, repeat, there isn't much else to this. I wish sometimes genuinely it was more complicated than that. It really doesn't seem to be. So marketing arbitrarily necessitates consent. Well, and given the range of things marketed to, and how liberally consent can be defined. I will say that you don't need some consent to market to them. Technically speaking, show them an advert without their awareness. B, it would correctly define behaviour as marketing without them ever having known they were marketing. You could show them a subliminal message. You could that would cover most sense. For instance, let's say you had text-based advertising, and you wrote within the word, acrostics or anything of that nature. You could eventually sublimate conditions and just suggest ideas the same way auditorily, words that way, gustatorily, make sure that every time they eat, let's say, a favourite food, particularly sugary food, build that desire innately, coordinate that. If you're able to do it digitally and figure out their system of life, their habits, their lifestyle. If you're able to figure out their lifestyle when they ate food, consistently send them a notification such as often receive notifications from Duolingo around about the time I get messages from my girlfriend. I don't know how it does that. I don't think it's a coincidence. For a very long time I haven't really crazy all around terms described emotions and mathematics as all yet not have definitions for. Point stands happens enough time. It's a pattern. If it's a pattern, it has a cause. And that's just the way I feel. Anything that you describe the R word as RNG machine has software would ultimately be comprehensible, sufficient different levels of software. Not getting bogged down on marketing, focusing on the marketing and narrative. So if marketing doesn't necessarily need consent, then marketing can continue existing without being observed or without consenting to it. So then marketing the development of marketing inherently has to have some sort of aesthetic value. Because it has to be something that you want to look at. The point of marketing is to attract attention, generate attraction to the brand, and then form attachment. So marketing, at a fundamental level, is life. And then you could argue that the dualistic idea of that, with the perception, could be life and entropy. So then if you argue that life is perception, life perceived enough of it to differentiate resources and reproduction, then perceptions technically has a dualistic relationship with it. If I'm understanding correctly in the idea of it, the increased chances of heading towards death, and just reduction of coherence, the diffusion, dissipation sort of thing. Everything just fades away. And it's an idea of what would existence, market life for the purpose of life wants to live that marketing is inherently a property of life. Because you could argue that death has a terrific way of seducing people to make them attractive. I should have done that, shouldn't I? That was. Hang on. Oh, the main five. What's the main five? Neck goes up. Cream goes in. Where it takes. Checks. And can't the queen take? Why can't the queen take that? Yes, the queen was there, and then that, right? That would be check, right? Okay. Marketing is equivalent to life. Then the individual brands and businesses and conglomerates that are marketing things are technically life forms in this context. Yep. Should have done that. Boom. Because if you move the queen, the idea would still be to the queen, so there's exposed to Malcolm. Good. Really. That. Then doesn't much go there. It does. Oh. Surely good. That is a beautiful piece of nitrotic coordination. Let's watch that again. That's brilliant. Not sure why that is, but it is. This here, that's. Hang on. There we go. That use of night squares is terrific. Especially with that, for the Right, okay. So that first, then that, then fair enough. Boom. I was thinking about that. It felt like there was escape. That is Abel. For some reason I thought there was escape here. That covers that. And that covers that. Doesn't it, Malcolm? Then boom. And even you could say that that covers that. Okay. Boom. Yep. And then yet within that checkmate. Boom. Needed that. There. Looking forward. Boom. Oh, it was here, was it? Because of that. Right. Boom. Then boom. Okay. So. Go again. Build skill. Win the game. Get better at chess. Everything goes hunky-dory. So metaphysics and narrative with cosmology, ontology, and teleology. Cosmology was first, Malcolm. Epistemology, teleology of metaphysics. Okay. So a lot of what I've been working on is from the perspective of reality. Digital reality, I argue something we're already entering in singularity style context from Ray Kurzweil's 2005 publication. Because hypothesis 2003, and his second publication 2022, especially titled Singularity Nearer. Because I feel the predominant which technology has overridden the majority of human behaviour has essentially started alternating human behaviour with digital behaviour. So for instance, the predominance of algorithms and the way they consistently redefine how people interpret their environment and the interface consequential from that environment to me is becoming an increasingly obvious concept compared with behavioural conditioning, population control, social engineering, and many ways to phrase that. The principle being that because such technology is so utterly ubiquitous in what it does, that there's not really much comparison apart from military scale operation. There really isn't much that can be compared to this sort of stuff. Precisely because I see what's happened there. Technology is so penetratedly integrated with society that it's becoming increasingly difficult to differentiate society from technology. And people are just humans. They're just people are machines really. They're far more mechanical than many of them want to. Ultimately, it's just a combination of biomechanics, chemistry. With a bit of electricity thrown onto it, which can be effectively summarised as once you're through the biology to the physics to mathematics, and the curious element of that is society idealistic, physicalist, or some other combination of principles. The prominent idea that I find most interesting is that of differentiating the digital reality we've concocted for ourselves as per the idea of what the singularity might end up being, as well as what simulation theory presents as a legitimate idea. I find the simulation fascinating because it's not falsifiable. It's brilliantly less mundane. And that says a lot. Considering how fascinating I find physics. I think what it really comes down to is how much I want to be able to reprogram reality. I really find that idea fascinating. The very legitimate idea of there being a source code to the metaphysical nature of perception. Everything you're looking at having some sort of compiler through which I could run code perception that is faster and easier than me just working harder at earning money to buy something different. I think it's fundamentally the appeal of it, and I'll admit that I would rather earn more money than less money. It just feels. I just always sort of felt that there should be more to life than earning money. And then there's this experience, that experience, yes, but not much of any to have some money. In the same way that to do much of anything in life, you need to have some food, keep you alive, bed, roof over your head, that sort of thing, Maslow's needs. I think I'm just incredibly fascinated by the idea that there is a valid theory arguing in support of a digital reality. Because I think a digital reality having the contingent how to phrase this rewritability necessary in such a contract. It's really cool. And I think that's a really fun idea to explore. I think that if that were the case, I would love to be able to learn how to rewrite reality. I would think. Cock. Silly me, eh? Right. Rematch that. Okay, so. Sorry, I was mildly distracted by the doorbell from a very insistent delivery person. I also feel I got a bit stuck in romanticism to reality. This is part of why I don't allow myself to fiction stuff to become real. Because all the imagination of it. It's like, yeah, but then it just gets stuck. I really do wish it was like that. And to me, I find that more than anything else. And we've reached that stage where the emotions behind everything start to come forward. And I just find depressing wanting reality to be like. I'd much rather learn how work so I can within reality, have more fun within what's feasible, instead of dooming myself to feel cool, that's cool, and that's this and what of that. It's like, yeah, well, so what? All of this and all of that can there and in my imagination, I can't actually make it happen in real life. And I don't want to get bogged down in falsehood. It just doesn't feel clever. It doesn't feel wise. It doesn't feel anything other than a waste of my time. And I feel strongly because I feel many people get so enamored by fiction, they're willing to suspend their disbelief in many real contexts, not just fiction. I think it blurs the lines between real life and the imagination. I think that genuinely damages a society's ability to speak. I think indulging in damages a society. Critically, I think it re-emphasizes this idea that empathy is the answer to all of our questions. You read recently that empathy helps with that. Okay, that's great. I'm not arguing against social cohesion, any sort of formal civilization that makes society more competent or productive. I just feel that there are smarter ways to do that. I feel that so many kids are distracted by the fiction that ends up doing more harm than good to their life. And I really feel that there's again I might be I got so enamored with fiction as a child, and this reality and that reality being possible. It was really cool, like you know, magical sword fighting or space cowboys, whatever the format was. It just ended up doing so much more harm than good. It really did. It just damaged me in a way that gave me a really false sense of reality. It made me feel that possibilities were. And as I say this being a fan of films such as The Matrix, I really enjoyed it. And nowadays most films feel far too close to being a documentary of some sort of projective autobiography. That I genuinely would rather read a book on logic, mathematics, or any sort of form of science, or the most recent theories in physics, and ground myself in this is what's possible. This is the stuff we collectively pretty much what's going on. It might not be perfect, but it is perfect. Genuinely best approximation of what's going on. And I feel fiction does so much to hurt people. It really does. It gives them this escapism from reality that doesn't help. It just distracts them and alleviates the sense of. For me, it's a tool for avoiding existential dread. It's just horrible. It's not fun. It just reminds me of. It just gives me. Because I could be doing better things with my time. I could be reading something, writing something. I could be working out, any sort of studying, training, working that would be a better use of my time. And it's just. I hear the counter arguments to this. Life balance. No, I don't. Because what you're defining as a work-life balance is not defining as a work-life balance. They're different things. My work-life balance is my life is my life. I work whenever I am alive. I am alive. That is it. There's nothing more to this idea of reconfiguring work-life balance to be in accordance with a very common perception. That doesn't do me any favors, and I would rather live my life with the view that fiction is not helpful. It just isn't. To me, it just isn't. And I feel most people support the idea of fiction because they're justifying their own behaviour, the same way that I justify my own behaviour. Whenever I say I'd rather be training or studying, because most humans do that most of the time. It's kind of anything that might be the most do is justify our behaviour. We justify our behaviour because we want to remain socially acceptable, so that instead of coming across as reprehensible beings that just insult everything everybody around them loves, we're more interested in just doing things we want to do. That's what we're all wanting to do. The problem is then it becomes down to an idea. Can be described as opinion. Ultimately is the same principle as philosophy. Arguably the same idea as politics, which is subjective. It's all subjective. And that's the tricky thing, is why I spend so much time trying to focus on objectivity is to have a comprehension and or computational list of functional perspective of society is inarguably helpful for myself and those around, because if I'm not behaving in a way that's helpful, I am definitionally unhelpful. You could say you're being neutral, but I really don't feel that. You're either being helpful or you're being unhelpful. Granted, you could be doing as neutral behaviour as you feel is the situation. You'd still be technically being helpful. You could be winning really slowly. Still winning. Losing really slowly. Still losing. And sometimes the body is pushed to absolute exhaustion. Sometimes the mind is pushed to absolute needs rest. However, those are just perceptions or limitations of time. When you push harder, you can go a bit further than you thought. And because you can go further than you previously thought was possible, you end up increasing that upper limit. And you'd be surprised how far you can go. Most people think working out 3 or 4 times a week is a lot. It really is. I'd work out 9-10 times a week and have done most of the past 4 or 5 years. And I sleep on. Granted, some weekends I have a lie into maybe sleep into maybe between 8 and 12 hours. And often twice a month about 12 hours on a Sunday after the week is done. Every other night maybe 6 hours, often less. Plus studying, plus working, plus maintaining a social. It's definitely possible. And I feel many people don't do that. It's too difficult. Not because they cannot, because they will not. And they defend their behaviour with rationalisation. That's what they want to do. And that's absolutely. It really is. It's just hypocritical to then suggest I live my life in the way you live it if you're not going to be willing to have a conversation the other way around. Have these conversations. Okay, well, you want to watch a film, or you want to do this recreation behaviour. I'll give it a go because I love you, because I value our relationship and sacrifice of my time for you. So I feel it's reasonable to reciprocate that behaviour. Holding on to that one. And I just feel that most people talk about being supportive and helpful. And it's like you just keep saying you support me, leaving all this, and all that, and then behave in a way that's somewhat antithetical. The tricky thing is finding what I feel is helpful for my life, helpful for your life, for our lives. And people speak about this with know how I feel, generally speaking. There is I'd say a mutually agreeable agreement. Everything has been voiced outwardly, including me saying to that person that I feel studying training is more helpful, and them saying that they would rather do other things in life. Okay, just stop telling me to rest so much. Instead, encourage me to be stronger. And this is something I've said before. Letting it my The funny. Well, the curious thing here is actually the specific behavior of me releasing my emotions is probably something that I've been doing, and it's interesting it comes in this format. So see, I do what is asked of me. I don't bitch about it, I don't complain about it, I don't complain about it, I just do the thing, because I know that if I want result A, I must do behavior. There isn't any feasible middle ground of kind of do this and get. I know, because if I kind of do it, I'll kind of get the result. I want the result. The same way that I am studying. Best move there. I was just doing that. Maybe it was something else. That was hard. I want the first class result. I am dedicating myself to studying every day, every weekday. I am in the library. As soon as I get back from training, I'm there till 5:30 till 5 p.m. I'm sat in that chair. I've stopped eating lunch. I've stopped playing chess breaks. I've stopped messaging my girlfriend and my friends in the middle. Specifically study more. Make sure that when I'm in the library, I'm focused, and when I get these podcasts, Monday and Wednesday, I read a book when I'm at jiu-jitsu for the 10 when I arrive early, when I'm at the gym, at the weekend, I speak about interesting ideas that are tangibly related or directly related with my friends. When I'm with my girlfriend, I speak about interesting ideas. She's qualified psychologist, going through adult stuff. It's more from that perspective, because I get a really interesting perspective psychology, which from a marketing perspective really helpful. And if I do this much, it is unreasonable not to receive first class in some way, shape or form. In the same way that if I train 5 days a week at jiu-jitsu, I put in a conscious effort to moves, new positions, and string them all together in a coherent piece of kinesthetic narrative that fluently describes the art of jiu-jitsu. It makes me feel elegant, and beautiful, and shut up this whole thing. Great, I will eventually get my purple belt, and eventually, and I'm sure there are 1,000 things I will have to so dramatically it will feel like going, and that's okay. That's just how everything is. I wanted to be more society, try hard. That's what bothers me. It's the amount of mediocrity that is absolutely unnecessary, and yet incredibly vocally supported by other components of mediocrity, insecurity, and most of them aren't even super consciously aware they're doing it. That's just what human beings do. They want to be like themselves. And that's the irony right now. I want others to be like me in the same way. I'm conscious of that self-awareness of it. Why does it bother me so much? People are so politics, local sports teams, philosophy they feel most interesting, the way they want to raise their children, or how they want to spend their free time. All subjective. And this is actually what I would argue as a counterpoint to genuinely supporting most global, like having the internet, fucking brilliant, having phones everywhere that I can go to any time in the world, fucking brilliant. Having all these transport infrastructure, boat trains, take me all around the world. Most of it really is part that bothers me, destroys this idea of striving, because it normalizes this idea that so many people are like, so then it's okay to be like all these other people. Maybe it's not. maybe it's actually kind of bad for human beings that so many people are okay with being average. Maybe the average human being was to work to a higher standard. I mean, I'd feel a similar way, and I'm sure others anyway. I'm sure on a higher level, similar on a higher level. The point I'm making here is that the average human being worked harder, then society would be in a better place. It's just we'd be healthier. There's so many people that have mental health, physical health, and it's entirely consequence of their own behaviour. And I feel so much sadness around me all the time because of their own problems. I can feel the sadness everywhere I go. And it's just so obvious to me. It's like if you stopped complaining about waking up early and having to eat healthily, exercising more, studying a bit more, you'd be healthier, you'd be doing better and in your work and in your personal life, wasting your time watching bullshit and reading, because all you're doing that empathise with fictional characters. Never exist. It helps to do anything, get along. It helps mediocrity. And I think more people should learn to empathise with superiority, with success, with winning. Because more people have that competitive part of their personality, society would be better equipped to learn how to cooperate whilst it is being competitive. We would have healthier winners. We would have healthier losers, because they'd understand that what they're doing is part of the struggle. They wouldn't struggle. They wouldn't want advice and give up. They might become 5, 6, 7 times. But I feel that working 3, 4 times as an average for the entire and it goes beyond economics. As I said before, from a social perspective, better health. And everybody would get to live longer, and then we'd have smarter people with higher IQ. Because the higher IQ, the average IQ would be higher because of the higher health. We'd have so much less stress in medical situations. Which needs to be correctly rephrased. Our healthcare system would be so much more productive if people took better care of themselves. Just normalising this idea of mediocre, absolutely destroys the ability for people to feel comfortable with striving. It's not that bad for your health to spend an early night instead of 8. Get an hour reading or playing a musical instrument, or playing a sport, or doing something more than lazing on a couch, or stacking imaginary points. And then you could even argue philosophically what money imaginary points. Well, the difference is money can actually tangible results like families and your friends, and you can donate to charities and all the other things that can actually do a lot of really great things for people. And seeking money instead of social approval can actually do more social good than you just behaving in a way that tells the people around you that you've got the correct zeitgeist, informs you this is the way you must believe in order to be socially accepted. I feel that if you have to reinforce social value via social media, and that's where most of your values come from, then how do people feel without having social media? Does it become that much more difficult to strive? Does it become that much more difficult to express any sort of emotion? It just Honestly, I think the important thing for me to recognize I am tired of being the odd one out. And I'm not even that freaking out because I can relate to some people in some shape or way. It's just I just kind of wish I had people that wanted to work as hard as I do. I wish I had friends who work as hard as I do. Because I have friends that work kind of hard. I have friends that work reasonably hard. Honestly, don't have many friends that work as hard as I do. And I'm not say that anyway other than acknowledging the amount of I don't know anybody that doesn't watch TV or has deleted all their social media. This chess podcast and the half hour or so of chess I do after my last thing in the day before going to bed is the only sort of fun I have apart from jiu-jitsu and gym, which arguably help my physical health, but self-defense virtue merit beyond that. But even then, when I'm doing those, I'm quite seriously improving, and I'm reading, and I'm listening to coach and implement some of his ideas. I have a very keen passion for the Yoma Plata that necessitates I focus on my own stuff. I do pay attention to what's being said. Just. Yeah, I'm just more interested in Yoma Plata because I want to build up my knowledge base from that. I don't feel that's ridiculous. I do feel better. I do feel like an effective calm manifesting as a physiological lightness in my sternum. Because the thing is, I wasn't studying, working. What would I be doing instead? Probably just playing chess, show on in the background. And I don't want to have a TV. I could have a podcast on the background, sure. Maybe a more casual form of study. That is what I'd want to do. I don't like watching. I tried going to the cinema recently because it was not Karate Kid. Was it? It might have been. It was the new version with Jackie Chan teacher instead of Mr. Miyagi. Not the one with. Was it Jaden? The newest one. This is 14th of July 2025. Fine. I love martial arts. Black belt taekwondo. Blue belt in jiu-jitsu. Fucking love. I've boxed. I've kickboxed. I've done loads of stuff. Done wrestling. Done some wrestling. A bit of MMA. Just. And I really enjoyed Jackie Chan films as a kid. Loving Russia and Tuxedo, Wild Wild West. And I really enjoyed Jackie Chan films. I enjoyed martial arts films, and that wasn't even to do like scripting this or that. No, just don't enjoy films anymore. And I'm kind of okay with that. I'm aware for you, but thank you for pointing out. No, I did not miss. Should have done was that. And then draw the idea. Then draw the idea. Okay. Pressure valve released. The mechanics of marketing metaphysically. It's a conduit of life. It is a continuation of life, seeking affection in the pursuit of attention for reproduction. That's what marketing is really about. I define marketing as the art, science, and sport, attraction, and attachment. It's basically dating for companies. They're trying to woo customers into having a long-term relationship. Faster check. I see. Bang. Oh yes. Because it could be pond, but protected by the night. Leaves that. Okay. Right. Thank you everybody for watching. Get into spreadsheet. Type this up. This might actually be worthwhile as a soapbox moving forward. And remembering that I am a human being that does have emotions, and sometimes releasing those emotions is good for my health. Okay. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. I appreciate your encouragement. Thank you, Sergeant. Good luck to you. Good luck whatever you're working on. If you enjoyed what you saw, leave us some comments. Ask any requests and stuff you want in the future. I'll do my best to incorporate it. Send us a like on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel. Share the video. All that jazz. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful life. And I'll see you next time. Cheers.